Hello, everyone. Welcome to another workshop by Tios. Today we have with us Shilpi Biswas. Hello, Shilpi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to our workshop. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll tell you some brief about Shilpi. She was born in a family of botanists and plant lovers, and that's from where she got her passion for plants. So we can say that, plants is in her blood, and she is going to share with us today a very interesting topic, that's how to grow plants in water. Now, this sounds very simple and, less messy, but it can be very tricky when we actually, start doing it. So, she's going to share with us some tips and some basics that we need to keep in mind when we are trying to grow plants in water. And you can also connect with her on her Instagram page called Shilpi Biswas. She shares amazing tips on the same topic on her page, and you can connect with her to there. The link is in the description box below. You can check out her page, and so I'm very excited to learn a lot of interesting tips from you today, Shilpi. So,
Hmm.
without any further delay, let's get started. Over to you.
So, thank you. That was a wonderful intro. And, I basically don't speak about the background, like how it started and like what, like a lot of people we talk are generally, new plant parents who eventually started this plant keeping passion or hobby over the lockdown. Like this pandemic when people are not, able to go outside or do the, other entertainment things, they started, keeping plants as a a part of entertainment or time pass. We can start with one or two plants and eventually the people who get the hang out of the green friends, they eventually get addicted and they'll start buying or stealing cuttings or increasing their collection. So the thing is, like, I have started it even before I was able to walk or have learned any other things, as I have been in a family where like garden is mandatory. Like I used to remember, like when I was very small, so like in the evening, kids of my age used to go outside, to evening play and all. And I have pictures, like I have shared over in Instagram also, where like the evening playing time was just watering plants or something like that. So yeah, I haven't studied anything related to plants, but all the experience, like when I was born till this date, is the thing which I'll be sharing today. And yeah, so this
Amazing.
was my so this was my background, where like I have been into plants since I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So today I'll be talking about how to grow plants in water, and I want to clear this thing. Like a lot of people were asking me about this. Like I'm not talking about aquatic plants today, like which we grow in aquariums, or the plants which we are all submerged in water. I would be rather talking about today is how we grow plants or propagate plants in water. Like the roots will be in water and the leaves will be in air. So this is called growing hydroponically, or you could say like water propagating or water propagating station, what you like hear over Instagram. So this is the thing I would be talking today. And first of all, I would like say, like, why do we need to grow in water when we can grow in soil, and it's more conventional. We have seen people growing in only soil. So why I prefer, like I enjoy growing plants over water, I would share. So first thing is, I have started like this entire thing growing in water thing over lockdown. So previously I used to grow only in soil. So like the conventional way is, like we mix the soil, all the proportions like the compost, manures, or something, like sand or the drainage substances and other soil, garden soil, and we grow over there. So this is the thing which we all know. And this part, like I was growing, like we all have seen like growing money plants over water in every areas. So during lockdown I started experimenting different kind of plants, cuttings, and even growing seeds in water. So everything, what we can grow and what we can't grow, and what are the factors which like are very effective for a successful propagation, and what not we need to know. I was for the entire pandemic I was studying those. And why I like water propagation, first thing is it's soilless and like very less minimalist way of getting into gardening without any mess. Okay, like because there are a lot of people who don't like like working with soil. A lot of people have gloves for the like soil works. A lot of people work bare hand. Like I do have gloves, but I work bare hand. And soil gets stuck over the nails. And soil is a good thing. Soil are beneficial in lot of ways, but there are certain things which in soil are harmful for us, like the worms we have in our stomach. Okay, so these worms complete their life cycle through soil. So their eggs are present over soil. So if the soil is stuck over our nails and we are not like very much into cleaning the nails and all, and we eat with those hands or something like that, those cycle completes and we can get worms. So this is another thing which people like don't like about working with soil. Another thing is a lot of time we live in an like apartment system. So right now I am living in Kolkata and I live in apartments. So wherever I can see, it's all concrete and pitch roads and like that. So we don't have the access of soil where we can go and bring. A lot of times we can't even order online because in pandemic the ordering thing was not there. So you don't have to bother about collecting the soil and making it if you grow in water. Second, the most important and interesting thing which I love about water propagation is like I can see the growth and the development of roots over water. Okay, so in soil, we just like enjoy the 50% of the growth, like visually. So we see wow, our plant is growing, it's so exciting, it's so good, but we are just celebrating the 50% of the growth. And the 50% of the growth, I would say, like visually it's 50%, but the growth of root is more important than the growth of foliages. So I can like the water roots which you can like you can see over here, and they grow very beautifully, and you can continuously monitor how the root is growing. Because why did I say like root growth is more important than foliage growth? I would explain it. So the thing is, I see like a lot of times, like I'm busy with office works or something, like I'm traveling or something like that, and I don't like give more time like in changing water or like checking out the things of the bottles. So I would eventually see like some leaf is getting yellow or brown tape or something like that. Same thing happens when a plant is in soil. So in soil, we would like just take assumptions like what could have happened. Might be it can be overwatering or less watering or something like that. Okay, so a lot of time the yellow foliage or the brown foliage is a direct indication of the root health. So it's in bottle, and I can see the roots over here. Some roots are like getting rot brown. So I can directly correlate how, if the leaf is going yellow or brown, I can like assume like one of the root or something on the root is going wrong. So accordingly I can manage, like I can see like how root and leaf health is interdependent. Second point, like third point, we can a lot of times uh, in soil, like for the new plant parents, I would say the most dangerous thing which is killing plants is I would say the root rot, and the root rot is caused basically by overwatering. So, like like when we get a new pet, or when you get a new phone, for the initial time, you would like keep the phone very softly to somewhere, and you would like over care about the new thing, and after some time you would be like taking normal care. So this happens with new plant parents, or when you get a new plant, you tend to overcure it, and caring is equivalent to watering, so you would overwater it, and then eventually the root starts like getting brown, soggy and wet, and then eventually rots. So the root rot check is like very easy when it's in transparent bottles. So this is another thing to you can check the roots over here. And another thing is, it requires very less resources. You just need water and one container. That's it. You don't need any other thing for growing plants in water bottles, or like the containers in water. Next thing is, it takes very less space as compared to growing plants in water, like soil. So what happens? The roots in water are very fragile, very narrow compared to the soil roots. So if this particular plant is growing in soil, so this amount of root, this is very thin. You can see like this is very thin. This is very like fragile, delicate. But when it grows in soil, the soil is more harder substance than water, and the root needs to be very thick and very sturdier, so that it can move through the soil. So the soil the roots get more bigger, more sturdier, and you require more space. Whereas in water, it requires very less space. And the last point I would say, like some growths, like I would, for example, tomato or basil. When you start growing it from soil, it requires a very large amount of time, and like very much amount of resources, space, and everything like that. But what happens when you grow a basil from seed, and as compared to when you grow a basil from cutting? The cutting would take 1/4 time of what it would require if you have grown it from seed. Same goes for the tomatoes. I have been doing this in the lockdown. So you get suckers, like the stems which are not, the main stem, or which would not be growing very, positively for the fruiting. So we call it suckers. So you just have to cut the stem of the tomato, of the sucker which I am talking, and just put it in water. It will eventually grow roots, and you can plant it as another plant. So you can compare like how a stem with roots, it would take hardly 2 to 3 weeks, but if you grow it with seed, it would take you more than a month to get a size of this. So these are the points which I feel like growing in water is very helpful. That too, when you are stuck in a pandemic situation, or you are basically lazy, you can't go out, or you don't want to go out, or you don't want to get into gardening, but not the messy part. I love greens. I love the good parts, but I don't want the bad parts, the messy parts. So water propagation is the thing you can try. The only thing which like be difference about you growing a plant in soil and water is that the growth rate of plant in water would be a bit less than the soil, which is of course because in soil you get all the like when we eat, we go for a balanced diet where all the macro and micronutrients are fulfilled. So in soil, the all the nutrients, all the components are basically equally divided, so plants get proper growth in soil. But whereas in water, basically we use tap water, and in tap water it's just the minimum amount of some minerals and the oxygen. So for in like you want to see growth in larger rate or something like that, I would be discussing about the points later. So first thing, like a lot of people I see who started growing plants recently, and they are struggling like how like I have a cutting, I have like a very beautiful cutting of some plant, and like it's not growing. And the cutting I have taken because I wanted to have that plant, and I couldn't get that plant. This cutting is my only hope. I wanted to grow the plant from this cutting, and it's not growing. So I went to that person's home, and basically she has kept the cutting. I would show you the cutting. So I would say this was the cutting. Yeah. So this was the cutting. She had only one leaf left, and it's philodendron Brazil. This one, and this one Michael. So what happened? Like she was very worried. She said like up to my knowledge, I know I have to keep it in water, and I have to keep it in a place where it gets some light, and I change water in a week. So I'm doing everything right, but eventually all my cuttings are getting rot, and nothing like no new root, no growth is visible. So I took the cutting from her, and I like I have a container where I keep all the cuttings which I like distribute to people. So I kept it in that, and I have like kept the container over my balcony. So in a balcony where the light, like the sunlight doesn't reaches directly, but it's a bright indirect light. And the thing happened, like I don't know what was there, but there are few factors which are very very important when you are growing plant in water. So the thing is, the requirement of a plant doesn't changes irrespective of what medium you are growing. So it can be soil, it can be water, but the plant requires to do photosynthesis in order to make food, whereas the root needs to do the work of absorbing the water and the nutrients from the soil or the medium in which it's grown. So the requirement of the plant doesn't changes, and we have to like keep in check like the requirements are in point or not. So the first thing is, whenever we have a cutting, we just like I'll show you. So these are the cuttings which I have been like this plant is particularly a lot of demand. Like whenever a person visits in like for my garden, they would ask for a cutting of this. So I keep it handy from my main plant, and I keep it in a container. Why do I use transparent containers or glass containers? So the transparent containers helps me to keep in check like what all things are going wrong in the root section. Okay, so I'll keep the cutting in a place where it doesn't get direct sunlight. It requires a indirect bright light. And now you'll like a lot of people get confused about types of lightings. Like when we read, it's direct light, indirect bright light, and there are a lot of combinations people get confused with. So I'll keep you like few things which like are segregated into these fancy words. So the thing is, you keep a plant and the sun directly falls on the leaf. It's called direct sunlight because the light is put like on the leaf directly. So a lot of plants which we call house plants are basically plants which require shady areas. Like they don't like sunlight falling directly to the leaf. So if the light falls directly to the leaf, it will start getting burns. Like I'll show you a burn. So this plant was over my window sill, and when like winter was not there, and the summer started entering our like area, and then the like sun was started like having a rotation, and sun started moving towards my window, and the light eventually started entering directly to it. So you can see like the leaf over here, is it visible? So the leaf over here is, like a burnt mark you can see. So the thing, I don't know if it's visible or not. No. So this is a burnt mark. You can see like there is a brown spot, and this happens when the sun directly hits to a plant which is a house plant which does not require direct sunlight. So a lot of plants like pothos, which we call money plant, or philodendrons, or some syngoniums, which are not very happy with direct sunlight, are required to keep away from direct sunlight. So this is the thing. Another thing is when you keep a container like a water container directly over the sun. So again, when the sun started entering to my window, so there was this bottle which was hanging over my window. You can see the entire container got green. So a lot of times when direct sunlight hits the bottle, the thing happens is there is a like good growth of algae, and this algae eventually starts growing over the bottle walls, and after some time it starts getting into the roots of the plant. So this is a pothos plant, and the roots you can see over here are greenish because of the algae formation. So this algae formation happens when the sun directly hits the water propagation station. So the thing, the plant requires the sunlight or the light for making the food through photosynthesis. So that's why the this categories come. The thing when the sun directly hits is called direct sunlight. Then another term you would see is bright indirect sunlight. So indirect sunlight is when the sunlight doesn't hits the like the leaf directly. So it's indirect. It can be you can keep the container over the window sill or somewhere the sun is nearby the light, but it doesn't hits it directly. Or you can keep the same container over the kitchen or bathroom where it doesn't get any at all sunlight nearby. So there are different kinds of indirect sunlight. So this is where you will see the categories where it says bright indirect sunlight. So bright indirect sunlight means it will be a indirect sunlight, the light will not hit it directly, but then like the sun, like I'm sitting over here and the balcony is this side, so the sunlight is visibly nearby, and that's why it's called bright. So this area is bright because like the sunlight is just nearby. So this is indirect sunlight but bright. If I keep the same container in the washroom, it will be indirect sunlight but it won't get the bright one. So here comes the categories. Like there are a lot of plants which requires very less amount of, like not requires, but they are like happy with very less amount of indirect sunlight, which goes with snake plants, ZZ plants. So they can be kept over the areas where they doesn't get the bright indirect. It's just a indirect sunlight. So this is the second factor, because when you are growing the plant in water, it doesn't means like it doesn't requires the things which it used to require in soil. It would require the same things like the sunlight or the light. It is a constant factor. Second thing is water change. So what happens, like a lot of people, like I have seen a lot of people who are not into gardening, but they keep few cuttings of money plant over a bottle in your like a lot of offices they keep it, a lot of home they keep it, and it's like a lot of people in India, like they basically think like money plants, growing money plants will give you money, and this thing make this culture where a little amount of, you are not a gardener, you are not a plant passionate people, but you will keep a money plant for the sake of its name, money plant, and you will get money. So a lot of people keep the plant, so they will grow it in water or sometimes in soil, whatever, but a lot of times they don't know like how frequently you have to change the water. Here again, it's a very important point, because it's a closed container. Like this amount of water I have filled here, it won't replenish, it won't get like any rain water or something to like get new water by its own. I have to give it water. I am the only one who is going to give the water. So, a limited amount of water would eventually lose its amount of oxygen concentration over there. So, what happens, like the root is absorbing oxygen, basically oxygen from the water, and the amount of water which is required to flow the nutrients through the entire plant system. So when you don't change the water in a required time, a lot of people says like change water twice a week within 2 to 3 days, or you can go for once a week. It depends on your lifestyle. Like if you are going like office going person, you won't get time on the weekday, so you can dedicate one day of weekend to water changing things. And a lot of times it depends on the size of the container. So if I am growing a water like plant in water in this container, and if I am growing in this container, so the size is a factor, like how much concentration of water will get replenished. So these things are the factors, but then I would say minimum is once a week is mandatory, because what happens, the root over water is like what happens when we give more water when the plant is in soil, the root starts getting rot, and it eventually gets brown, rot, and it dies. So why it happens over in soil and not here? It should happen in water also, because in soil we are saying it's overwatered. So it's like it died because of more water, and here it's only growing in water. So it's not more water, it's all water. So why it's not dying? So the only factor is we are giving it fresh water. So what happens when we give fresh water? The water, keeps changing, and the amount of oxygen starts, replenishing after some time, and these roots don't get, stuck in the same old water. So when they, get fresh water, they show new growths. New growths are visible, like the tips will be white. So you can see like these are the baby, new growth. And what when we don't change water, it starts getting brown. I can show you brown. So here in this cutting, you can see like this is the root. So this root is all white, and this is white because it got all the new water which I'm talking about, like replenished within a week or like that. But then these roots, these were the old nodes, and this doesn't got white tips and all. So why this is brown and why this is white? So the brown roots are, you can see brown roots when the water is not changed over some time, and it starts getting brown. And if you don't keep and check on time, that brown tip would start getting rot, and it will eventually very soft soggy, and you have to cut the part and you have to remove it. So water replenishment is required so that the root doesn't get rot, which happens in soil when we say overwatered kill the plant. So it can happen in water if you don't change it in time, and that the time, I would say 1 week is enough, because we all have a very busy lifestyle, and in this lifestyle I won't pressure you to change it after 2 to 3 days or something like that. 1 week is enough. Dedicate a day in the weekend, like few hours, and change it weekly. Second, like the third point would be temperature. So the water which we are giving and the air which is around it, these two requires a temperature which the plant is suitable for the plant. So the water, I would say, change the water when the water is in room temperature. Like a lot of times in afternoon time, we see the water is hot because of the overhead, tanks. So the hot water, like I have done this mistake over the lockdown experimentations. The water propagation stations used to get afternoon sunlight for few, like 1 hour or something like that, for few hours, and the water used to get very warm, and eventually I started seeing the roots are getting very soft, and it's not raw, but it's soft. So I dipped my finger over the water, and I saw the water is very warm, and I felt like the roots were getting boiled over there. So the room temperature water is the required temperature for the plant, and anything warmer or anything colder is not good for the growth of the plant or the health of the root. Another thing, where are you keeping this you know propagation station? So when there's summer season, a lot of rooms get very hot. You can't sit over that room, and you go to a room where there is AC. So plants basically, like, you have to, in order to make the plant happy, because I think no plant is a house plant. Okay, so it's a myth, I would say. No plant is a house plant. When God created plants, or the plants, started growing over the earth before us, they were not meant for a house. Like no plant was made for a environment called house. So we say house plants on the basis of light requirement. A lot of plants don't at all becomes very happy or something like that in shade. I had a jade, and that jade plant didn't get any direct sunlight. Eventually it started losing all its leaves. Why? Because the natural habitat of that plant is a place where it gets direct sunlight. Okay, so all the plants you see here, it's not like it's house plant, so its natural habitat is a house. Its natural habitat is somewhere where it used to grow. Eventually, humans, started keeping it in home. So, like these philodendrons or monsteras or pothos, these are aroids. A lot of them are tropical plants. So you have to see like the plant's background, where its natural habitat is. If this plant is tropical, you have to give its environment which is similar to its natural habitat. So if you are growing a plant which is tropical, the temperature should be like that. You can't keep it in a room where it's too hot, you can't sit. You can't keep it in a room, in an AC room, where you are very comfortable. No, you are comfortable is your natural habitat now. But for plant, you have to imitate the natural habitat. So keep it in a place where the air around is, like, not too hot, not too cold. Okay, I won't give you specific degrees, like from 25 degree to 30 degree or something like that. No, I would say study about the plant a little bit in Google, and you see like where the plant is generally found in nature. So if it grows in a plant, like a lot of aeroid plants, they have these aerial roots. So what is aerial root? Aerial roots are the roots, these ones, which can, like, the function of root is to absorb water from the surrounding area. It can be soil, it can be a water propagation station, or it can be air. So the aerial roots will absorb water from air. So the humidity or the moisture in the surrounding would give the aerial root the required amount of water it requires. So that there is a like, you will see a lot of people use moss stick. Okay, so they use this stick. I'm also using a stick over here. So this sticks helps like getting these aerial nodes the amount of water they need. So why this plant has aerial nodes? So why this plant has aerial nodes? Because it grows in a place where it can get stuck to a big tree's branch, or like the trunk, and it can absorb water from the like big tree which is falling from the trunk. I'll show you an example. So I have this orchid, and like my hometown is in Chhattisgarh. So I went to a place nearby which is very hilly to my hometown, and we were on a little trip, fun time with family and all. So I found this orchid falling from a tree to a ground. So even this stick was from that forest only. So this orchid, you see these roots, and I got it like it was fallen on the ground, so I kept it with me. It's been with me for years now. So you can see this is a tree trunk, and the root is still now holding the tree trunk. So what happens, that you can see the tree trunk is very huge. So it shows like the tree would have been a very big tree, and what, like whenever it rains, the water would have been falling from this trunk, and it can stick to the trunk and absorb from it. So these are the things like which shows their natural habitat. The orchid here got stuck to the trunk, and this was its natural habitat. I How do I water this? I just mist it once or twice a week, or I would dip it in water for few minutes, and then it's done. I treat it as a air plant, and it's very happy. It gives new roots, new leaves and all. So I'm just imitating its natural habitat. So when you grow plant in water, again you have to think the factors which are effective for the successful propagation, and the factors are very easy. You just have to imitate its natural habitat. That's it. That's the cheat code for the successful plant growth.
Oh,
So next point. Yeah.
that was amazing, Shilpi. I hate to interrupt you, but we have a
Yeah.
few questions here. Let's take them.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So Apurva is asking, what all plants can be grown in water? I am looking at growing a herb garden hydroponically. Can you please throw some light on it? What nutrients should be added, NPK or other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question.
So like I would answer about the herbs right there, because the plants which are very easy to grow in water, I would be giving a short list at the end of the session. But for the specific question she asked is for the herbs, so I'll show you an example. I knew someone would ask about the herbs. So right now, just to show the example, I have been growing this mint over water. So you can see new leaves, new roots are here, and this has been growing in water. And in my hometown, I have been growing a lot of herbs in water. So it was carom seeds, like the ajwain. It was basil. It was mint. It was some kind of Thai basil, and tulsi, like holy basil in water. And like in lockdown, I couldn't get hold of a lot of herbs. I was growing the things which I can collect from here and there only. So the thing is, like, you have to see like how the plant grows. So for this example, this mint leaf, this stem, you can find there are nodes. Like in every node, you will get this growth of leaves. So what happens when you try to get this plant growing in water? First thing you have to do is remove all the leaves from the lower part. No leaf should be submerged in the water, because leaves are not made to be in water, and eventually it starts getting rot, and the entire water starts getting bacterial or fungal growth. So remove the lower leaf, and then put it in water. Keep it in a place where it's warm enough but not boiling or damaging to the plant. Change the water weekly, like what I told. And for the nutrients which you want to give to the plant, you can do in two ways. Like I have aquariums. I sometimes use the fish water. So when the fish poops, the nitrogen cycle completes, and the water itself becomes very nutrient rich for the plants. A lot of people don't have fish, so it's a very optional thing, but you can give fertilizers which are water soluble. So try to get hold of fertilizers which are water soluble, which can be easily dissolved in water. You can go for seaweed fertilizer. You can go for NPKs. I would say while purchasing, ask the shopkeeper, or if you are purchasing online, go to the description and see if it's water soluble. Like in lockdown, I was using I tried dissolving DAP into water, and it was not water soluble and nothing happened. So try to get hold of water soluble fertilizers. Seaweed solution works for me, but again when you use fertilizers in water, you have to keep in check for two things. Fertilizers are the food for plants, so it's a food, and when it's a food for a lot of things which you don't want, including fungus, including molds, including algae, including another bacterial groups. So you have to keep cleaning the water very thoroughly, and you have to keep in check, like the fertilizer you are using, it would make a slime like substance on the surface of the container. So you have to clean it very thoroughly after 1 or 2 weeks. And I would say don't keep the water which is added with fertilizer for too long. If you are using fertilizer over water, you should keep it for a week and then change the water, wash the stem and roots, wash the container, and then keep it in fresh water. So you can use fertilizers, and I would say use fertilizers if you want to see actual growth. A lot of people try to grow the flowering plants or the fruit plants over water, and this is the thing where they don't get success, is like they can't get the flower or the fruit in water, because for flowering and fruiting, the elements which it requires is not in the water. Even if you give it in water for fruiting, the plant requires a large amount of fertilizer, those components, NPK. So the thing is, if you want to grow fruit or flower particularly, I would say try soil. But if you want to grow only herbs, water will work. Just use water soluble fertilizers and try to clean it thoroughly after you have done feeding the plant, or else you will get unwanted growths which you don't want. Yeah, I hope
Uh,
it would help. It would be helpful.
yes, yes. Thank you for the lovely explanation. I just
Yeah.
want to ask you one thing. What type of sunlight should we give to herbs?
It would be bright indirect sunlight. I won't
Okay.
suggest giving direct sunlight to any herbs, because a lot of herbs like this mint, it got sunburn. So
Uh-huh.
if it's in soil, till no, even in soil, I won't suggest you give direct sunlight. And for water propagation, it would be very clumsy, because you have been like this. This would happen if you give direct sunlight. It would go
Oh,
all green by algae.
yes.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about sunburn and the leaves turning yellow and the tips getting brown
Getting done.
because
Yeah.
of the root rot. So, what should we do when this happens?
Yeah. So the thing is, whenever we change water, I would suggest you like take the root while changing the water, and this is the root of this cutting. It's been
Mhm.
here for months, and it's
Quite
so
long.
long I can't show you in camera. So what happens, like when I change the water, I clean the root also. I'll rub my fingers over the like root, and I'll clean it. So there will be a very slimy substance over there. You have to clean the roots. You have to clean the leaf. Like we clean the leaf in our other plants, you have to clean the roots like this. And if you see any tip getting brown or something like that, I would suggest remove it immediately. Cut from there to stop the rot spreading to the entire root. And just like keep changing water regularly. Once a week is mandatory. More than once is good, but once a week is mandatory. Clean the container, clean the root, and provide fresh water. It won't get rot.
And what about the leaves? Should we also remove the leaf if it gets sunburn?
Yeah, you can remove the leaves, because what happens, like I have kept this for an example. So this leaf is eventually going to die. Once the
Yeah.
leaf is yellow or brown, it won't ever return it to white, so it would die eventually. So what happens, like I want this cutting to utilize this energy to grow new leaves and new roots. And
Hmm.
right now the plant is giving its one of the portion of the energies to make this
This
leaf
leaf.
live more longer. So if you don't want to divide your plant's energy to make the dying one survive, you can of course cut the portion and keep the healthy part, so the energy would divide it to the parts where you want new growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you also tell us like how much water should we add in the container? Is
Yeah.
that also a criteria?
Yeah, that's also an criteria. I would share about that also. So these, I'll remove few cuttings and I'll provide few new examples. So I have been growing these peperomias over here. So what happens, like I believe in sustainable living, and I recycle, reuse, everything is possible. If this is an ice cream cup and this is some cap of bottle, and I have been water propagating in here for months, like almost a year, in this bottle cap.
Oh wow, how cute.
So what happens, so this peperomia cutting you can see. So I was not here, and the root is not that much healthy, because there was no frequent water change. So
Okay.
when you have cuttings like that, you would see the stem starts dividing into new stems. So this is called the crown. So
Okay.
a lot of plants has a crown. So you have to fill water till the crown. You just
Okay.
have to dip to the portion where the stem can grow roots, and those leaves, these leaves, if these leaf stem gets submerged, it can start getting rot. So this is
Okay.
for the plant which has crown. But for plants, like I would show another propagation of the same plant. So this is an like I would share how to propagate a stem of a plant which has this much stem. Okay, so it would
Okay.
be helpful for succulents also. If like I have been growing succulents in water for propagation, and eventually I have shifted in soil, because I have given that container to my mother. So the succulent I would not be showing today. It's in my mother's home. So how can you propagate succulent or this type of this little bit of size of the stem, and you want to propagate it in water? So the process is, take a small container. Okay, so this is an ice cream container. You can take any container of this size, and then take a plastic. So you can take any cling wrap. I have taken a normal polythene which I got from, like I bought potatoes and I got this contain like plastic. So tie the plastic over the container's mouth with a rubber band, and then make holes on the container and dip the plant cutting on the from the hole to the water. If this is like normal stem cutting, you can dip the stem in water. But if it's succulent means they are xerophytes, they contain water itself in them. So excess water can easily rot them, and a lot of people don't get success in propagating succulents where the succulent is dipped in water and it start getting rot from there. I have faced that, like a lot of leaves were not successful. So for succulents, if you want to propagate, you have to keep a little bit of distance, like 1 millimeter or something like that, distance from the water surface and the leaf. So what happens, the leaf can sense there is water below, and eventually it will start shooting roots through the into
Okay.
the water. So that's for succulent, and for this one I'll show you now. So what happened is, these two big leaves, so these two big leaves are the mother leaf, and these are the baby plants right now.
Oh,
So it has been under from this polythene, and it has been here like growing into it. So why did I use this polythene and didn't directly put the stem or the leaf into the water? So a lot of times we just need to like dip the tip of the leaf or the stem, not the
okay.
entire thing. For money plant we can dip because they are aeroids. They love getting water from wherever they get, so the aerial roots will absorb. But from these cuttings, what happened is the polythene divided the the plant part which doesn't likes water, and the plant which part which require water, and then like the mother leaves are still there, but we have babies below there.
Oh, wow. So these
Yeah.
leaves that are growing underwater, they will not rot?
No, they are not touching water. And again,
Okay.
like there is a thing. There are few leaves which have been growing under the water. And what happens is, this has an example. So this cutting, if you see, they have like, I don't know if it's visible, but they have leaves in water. So these
Okay.
leaves, when it started growing, they started growing under the water itself. So like a person born in Africa or in the region of equator, they won't feel that hot as compared to a person who is born in Alaska. So
Yes.
yeah, so they are adapted. So these
Okay.
leaves have started growing. They are born in equator. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice way to put that.
So any other question or should I continue?
Yeah, you can continue. There was one more question from Neha Thakur. Fertilizer for water plants. I think you've covered that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope
Any
you've got
water
your answer.
soluble fertilizer will work. I
Have
won't
you?
suggest anything particular. You can
Okay.
any use. Even I have used rice water, but
Okay.
then it made the water very cloudy and smelly and all. So yeah, again you have to change it very frequently and clean it, because it's a food, and when it's food, it's a growing medium of everything.
Yes. And what
Yeah.
about some other natural fertilizers that people use for soil, like banana peel water?
Yeah, banana
Mm,
peel water I have used for water propagation stations, because it's one
okay.
of my favorite. But it's basically for flowering plants. So
Okay.
a lot of times we don't use flowering plants in water propagation stations, so it doesn't aids that much in water plants. But you can use any fertilizer you want, the nutrient you want to give, you can feed. The only key to it is change water frequently, clean the water like very frequently, so that
Okay.
nothing grows on that medium.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Please continue, Shilpi.
Yeah. So when we say about like growing plants in water, there are do's and don'ts which we like a lot of people don't know, which a lot of people know, but don't bother about. So I would like to point out some do's and don'ts. So yeah, again, for don'ts, I have already covered. Do not submerge any leaf in water. The leaves which are grown in water, like which are born in water, are good to go. But which are in air, and you know like dip it in water and start growing them in water, it happens. A lot of times you won't notice, but the leaf goes dead, brown, rot, and it makes the entire water bacterial home, and that affects the root, and the root starts getting rot because of that one rot leaf. So do not like put the water in soil. If the do not put the leaf in water if the leaf is in, like the air leaf. Second point is, whenever you see something is, starting getting rot, it's absolutely normal if you get one or two roots, getting brown. It's absolutely normal. It can happen like the plant required the water just 2 days before, and you didn't, provide it the right amount of oxygen for 2 more days, and it would get a little bit of rot. It won't affect the entire cutting or the entire system if like remove the part which is rot immediately when you see it, so that the spread to the, it can spread to the entire root if you don't remove it on time. So whenever you see in water change, like I told you, like, like clean the leaf with your the root with fingers. So when you like clean it, you'll see some of the roots which are very soft, mushy, and you can feel it like it's a bit of, like, you can feel hollow from inside. Remove it. You can pinch it. You can cut it with scissor and remove it. So remove it on time. Clean the containers so that no algae formation, nothing happens. There is a point where, like, you don't want to, like, have that time to clean it. 1 second, huh? Power bank. So what happens? The battery is going a bit low, so I would connect the phone with my power bank.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Thanks for keeping patience.
No, no, no worries.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Give ना. नहीं, बस.
You have a lovely balcony.
Yeah, a lot of birds, come for their lunch and water over here. So that's why,
Uh-huh.
I was getting very distracted. I started video and there were few birds. They came to check like what I am doing with so many plants sitting over here. They didn't saw me ever like sitting here with these plants.
Okay,
Yeah, fine. So it's getting charged, and my apologies for this
no
thing.
problem.
Yeah. So I was telling about you. A lot of times, like we don't, feel very comfortable with cleaning containers frequently, and we want a solution for not cleaning the containers. So the thing happens is, when you use transparent containers, the algae formation, the speed of algae formation is very faster because it's transparent. But in order to avoid it, you can use this brown or, like dark color containers. So these containers don't get algae formation that easily as compared to transparent ones. And these are pretty much, like, I won't say dark is, you can't see in the roots, like you can't see from the camera, I would say, but in like with your eyes you can check the roots, but then it won't get algae formation that easily. So that's a small hack, I would say, if you don't want to clean your containers very frequently. And another thing is, uh, avoid fungal growth. To avoid fungal growth, you have to keep an eye on the roots. Or every time you clean, you just have to check like if there is anything slimy, clean it with your hands and put fresh water, and you won't get any fungal or bacterial growth. You are giving it a new fresh, like we take bath and we feel fresh,
Mm-hmm.
all the bacteria and germs are gone off. So same
Yes.
thing happens with the roots. Just give it a small bath, and that's it. And another thing I would, like to add, a lot of time we keep cuttings from a plant which has, like flowers or something in that. So again, like I would, suggest the same point happens when you want to keep like cutting in water. You want it to grow new roots for you, the new water roots. So if it has any flower, what happens? The flower is there so that the plant can reproduce. It can produce fruit. It can produce seed, and it can multiply itself. So you are taking the cutting for the like making the cutting grow new roots, and you can grow it. Your prime focus that time is not getting the seed. So just cut the leaf and like cut the flower and remove it when you want to give it a new root growth or new shoot growth in water. The
Okay.
flower in the cutting is not helpful. The energy will be drained towards making seed formation area, and the growth in root and shoot will be less. So this is the another tip. Like I know flowers are very beautiful and we all want to keep flowers and all, but if you want to get new growth, it sounds brutal, it sounds very harsh, but for growth it's helpful. And these are the don'ts, like you should avoid it. And what are the do's? Again, for do's I would say frequent root check. A lot of time you can see the root and you can tell, like if it goes brown, I'll show. So this philodendron is over here in this container for almost 4 years. So it's in this container for 4 years, and when I brought it, it had only few leaves, and now this has this much. So you can see there are two type of roots over here. So some are
Yes.
green, some are brown, right? So you
Yes.
can like from your naked eyes you can say like there are brown, there are green. If you have any doubt, put the plant in here, touch the brown. If it's soft, it's rot. Just cut it.
Okay.
And sometimes if it's hard and it's not mushy, it like while touching it feels like the green ones. Then keep the brown ones. Okay. So this
Okay.
is the like checking, like a lot of times you can just keep and check to avoid the rot, because a lot of times rot can happen and there's nothing to be ashamed of if you get a rot in roots. Okay, like there's no mistake in gardening. You just learn a new thing from that. So that's absolutely normal if you get a brown root. Even I get sometimes, and I will clean it. And if you clean it in time, the entire plant is healthy enough. It will, like grow like it was growing. Another
So
thing
if
is,
we cut
uh,
it, will it grow a new root? If we cut the brown root, if it's rot, and
yeah,
if we
yeah,
cut it from the node,
yeah.
it will
you
start
you are
growing
not
new.
cutting the entire root, you are cutting just few ones. So what happens when we do pruning to the plant, we cut
Okay.
the starting part of the plant or some portion of the plant, and in order to give a new boost, it will grow new shoots. Like that, when you cut a like few roots, it will boost and you will grow, see a growth of boost of new roots. And that's called a part of, you can say, root pruning. So it's
Okay.
okay. It won't die. A lot of plants over here. This plant here is for 4 years, and I have like few days ago only I have like removed few roots from it, and I haven't seen any leaf wilted or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if a root is rot, eventually it will like rot, start rotting everything. and a rotten root won't serve anything to your plant anyways. So if you cut it, it would be helpful for that.
Okay.
Next, I would say, um, um, yeah, a lot of times we would, we would say we are done with water and we want to, like shift this plant to soil. Okay, so a lot of times, like we just grow plants in water in order to get new roots, and once it's getting propagated, I will, shift it to soil. So, when should we shift the plant to soil? So, that's the tricky part. A lot of people say when the root is about 1 inch, you can shift. A lot of people say when the root is 3 to 5 inch, you can shift. Okay, so the thing is, you like I don't go to the
No, I can't hear you. You're not audible. We lost your voice somehow. Still can't hear you. Can't hear you, Shilpi. I guess you got a call and that's why we lost your audio. Maybe you can try disconnecting and connecting again. We can't hear you, Shilpi. You're not audible. No, we lost your voice totally. No, no. Can't hear anything. Maybe you can try disconnecting and then connecting back again. Can you hear me? Shilpi, can you hear me? Try to disconnect and connect back again so we can hear what you're saying. Okay, got you now.
okay, I'll do one thing, I'll rejoin.
No, 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 it's okay, it's okay. I can hear you.
Am
Yeah.
I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank God. So yeah, so where was I, like till when you could hear, like from where should I continue?
You were talking about the roots, the brown roots.
Brown roots, yeah. So yeah, that point was covered over there.
Yes,
And
after that.
yeah, after that I was saying, like when a lot of times, people want to transplant the plant from water to soil.
Yeah.
So the propagation part is done, and I want to transplant it to the soil. So when should I transplant it? So a lot of people say you can transplant it after the root is about 1 inch. A lot of people say you can transplant it when the root is up to 3 to 5 inch. And from my experience, I would say, like I feel confident enough to transplant when the size of the root is equivalent to the size of the cutting. So this thing has never failed me. So when
Okay.
I transplant it from water to soil up to the root size, which is equivalent to the cutting size, almost like 99% chances it will be healthy. Of course it would get a shock from the environment change, but then like it would get accustomed with the new environment within few days. Just keep it in the same environment, it would get wilted for 1 or 2 days, but then it would like catch up with the new environment.
Okay. We
Yeah.
have a
uh,
question from Smita.
yeah.
Which plant should we avoid for proper water propagation?
Yeah, a lot of plants which I would say like should not be propagated if you are not confident enough are plants which has bulbs. So bulbs is like onions. So when you dip the onion in water, so only the root part would require the water, not the entire bulb. And when the bulb gets the water, it starts getting rot. So a lot of plants like gladiolus or caladiums, those plants, I would say you should not try water propagation if you are not that much confident. And anthuriums, a lot of people say they don't see success in water propagation of anthuriums, but more or less you can grow each and every plant in water, but these things are tricky, so I would suggest not to grow those if you are not confident enough.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Any other question, or should I continue?
Continue, please.
Yeah. So I was telling about what transportation. Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So what happened when we transplant to the like plant to the soil? So the roots which are visible in like I'll show you. So you can see these roots, right? So these roots are water roots, and water roots are different from soil roots. So why they are different? So because of the the environment which they are growing. So in water, what happens? I will tell you the difference between the water roots and the soil roots. So water roots are very like hairy in nature. So you can see like here the roots have white hairs around the like around it. Is it
Okay.
visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So it has very like hairy like substances from there, because the more surface it gets, the more water it can absorb. So the water roots are very hairy. They are more whiter as compared to the soil roots. They are more fragile, and like very like thin as compared to the soil roots, because I have told like the substance over here in which it's growing, it doesn't needs a sturdier root to push it, but in soil it requires a very thick root to penetrate the soil and like take its surface. And again like these roots are made to absorb water, like they are born in equator, so they are made for the equatorial environment. So these are made for water absorption and water environment, whereas the soil roots are not made for water absorption. Like the type of water absorption it does, it only absorbs the water which is in soil, but here it has only water. So it is like born to be like where the only water is there and I have to absorb it. And again, this water root, why we tend to propagate stems in water and not directly into soil. A lot of times we feel confident enough just to propagate in water rather than in soil, because it requires less energy to develop. So water roots actually requires very less energy to develop rather than in soil, because again the the environment which is not hard enough, so you can go very narrow, you can go very thin, and you can go you know very easily to grow in this environment. So that's why a lot of people feel water propagation is having way more success rate than direct soil propagation. So these are the differences. And there is the thing, like when we like transplant this plant to soil, what happens? This root gets a new environment and they start adapt the new environment, and then these roots itself get very thick, very sturdier, and make themselves adaptable to the soil. So these root and soil roots are different. Water roots are like this, and when we put it in soil, it becomes a bit more different and becomes soil root. Yeah, so this was for the transplantation part. And what are the different ways you can enjoy growing plants in water? So I would say a lot of people I have seen in Instagram, I have never used by myself, is they grow the cutting in perlite or pumic stone in water. And recently I have use this leca balls. So I have got this from affordable organic store only, and these leca balls are like clay balls only. So these can absorb the nutrients which I want to give. They can provide a bit of soil environment, but then again it's in water, so it's water propagation itself. And you can see, so here till this much the root was growing in water, but then this white part started growing when it started growing in leca. So I would say leca is also a like functional way, because this amount of root which is grown, like the white portion, is within few days, like 2 to 3 days the root has grown like this much, which is like I have transplanted this in leca for a few days ago only. So leca is a good option. And then a lot of people use like colorful pebbles at the base of the container. And again you can have fun with water propagation stations. Like you can collect containers which has flat surfaces. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So collect containers which have flat surfaces. Okay. So what you can do, you just have to get a magnet and stick to it, and you can use it as a fridge magnet, and you can propagate plants over fridge, your almirah, wherever you want. So this is also a fun way to get your propagations.
That's a
And
wonderful idea.
yeah, just you have to collect a flat surface where like you can stick the magnet. And then again, like I use a lot of these hanging bottles. So I just tie it with a rope and hang it over here and there. So a lot of hanging bottles you can like use at your home, and like your wall can go green with these. And yes, you can like these are the ways I generally use at home. And of course there are a lot of ways you can get. Like I can like if I ever try a new way, I would share in my Instagram page, or you can go to any Instagram page. I won't say like just follow me, just go over Instagram and check out the new ways people are trying, and you can try it your own. And few tips I would say, if you want to grow your plant in water for years, is the tips which I have said previously. Just follow those, and like I have been like that plant I have shown. It is in water for 4 years, and it's still healthy. It's still happy. And I can show you few of my plants. So these roots you can see, like can you see the roots? They are very thick and woolly in nature.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the water absorbed roots. So these have been adopted to the new environment, the water, and made themselves thick in order to like get growing nature in this water. And then again I would like suggest few of the propagation ways you can use to do. So I would show you. You can use this leaves of snake plants. So what I have done, like a lot of people are not confident enough to propagate succulents over water. So I have told you about these adroids or stem cuttings and herbs, but I would show you few succulent options. So whenever I'll again give you another tip, which is whenever you cut a stem, always cut it in 45 degree. So what happens when you cut it in this degree? When you dip the plant, it won't like all the surface will touch the surface and get blocked. It would be like half slit open. So always cut a cutting in 45 degree. And I have said this because like when you cut for the leaf cutting method, so this is the leaf cutting method. So you would cut the leaf in V shape.
Okay.
So what happens when you dip it in water? This area would get water and would like able to grow roots. I have shared a reel over my Instagram where you have like you can see I have grown almost like more than 20 snake plant cuttings. Like all my neighbors and people around my hometown were got sick of my like free gifts of snake plant pups. So they were like getting so many pups just by like just take the leaf, cut it in V shape with scissor. And another tip which will help you in successful succulent propagation is always like I have like cut this leaf in front of you, and I won't dip it in water right now. I would keep this cutting for 1 day, and what happens it will form callus. What is callus? So callus is like when we get a cut in our hand, the blood clots and it stops bleeding. So
Yeah.
same thing happens with the leaf. So you can see like this is a fresh leaf cutting, and this is a 1 day old leaf cutting which I have done 1 or 2 days back most probably. So this has formed callus. So the wound is sealed. So when you dip it in water, the wound is already sealed. It won't got like start getting rot, but this has open wound, and when you
Okay.
dip it in water, it can get rot from here. So always wait for a day to form callus, and then you can put it in water like in container like this. Put water till this much, and you'll get start getting pups. And like for snake plants, you can recycle the mother leaf. You can get multiple pups from it. Just remove the pup you got, plant it or put it in water, and leave the leaf in the water, and you will get new cuttings from that the same leaves. So these are the few this propagation method is called leaf cutting method. So you can use it for succulents. I have shown you the peperomia, and for peperomia you can even cut the leaf from middle and put it in any medium like coco peat or something. It will grow from the cutting only. So these are the leaf cutting method. You can go for succulents and cactuses also, because like this cactus was previously in water. I have propagated this in water, and then I have kept it in soil now. So this cactus was propagated in water. Like I got it in a nursery where it was, in like they have threw it and they didn't want it. So basically, I rescued and then adopted it, and it also became very cheap because they didn't want to keep it. So for money plants, which you see, so these are called vine plants. So for vine plants, now I will cover what all plants you can keep in water. Right. So a lot of people are having questions. So basically, you can keep any plant in water because again, root are different for water and soil. Any plant can grow water root. Any plant can grow soil root. They can eventually, change itself. So yeah. So I would say I would tell you few plants which are easy to grow in water for the beginners. Rest you can grow any plant. So for the vine plants, you can go with pothos, like the kinds of money plant. So there are a lot of kinds of money plants you can go for. Like these are different varieties, satin and you marble queen and enjoy. So different types of pothos you can go. You can go from different types of philodendrons. Like I have lemon and lime and Brazil and Michael. And you can go for syngoniums. So I have two syngoniums in water right now. So this is one variety and this is another variety. So syngoniums are very easy and philodendron pothos, these are very easy to grow in water, so these are very comfortable for any beginners. You can go it without any fear. Even you can go for monsteras. So I would show you, I have been growing this for a few months. So this is the monstera cutting. So this is the root, is it visible?
Yes, I can see. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely roots.
So even monsteras can be grown in like water. It's
Wow.
very easy. You just have to get a node. So there is a node. I just got a single node from my
Uh-huh.
friend and it's been growing here. So for vine plants, pothos, philodendron, syngonium, monsteras, aeroids with aerial roots are very easy to grow in water. From stem cutting, you can start with ZZ plants. I have a lot of ZZ plants over here, but all are in soil right now. So I would not show you, but ZZs are very easy to propagate in water. You can go with begonias and coleus. So these are very easy plants. My coleus and begonias are not here right now, or I would have shown, but I have grown it. It's very easy. And fiddles, leafy, rubber plants. These are also easy, but I would say not to start with these. Just start with the easy. Like the first, I would say go with pothos, philodendrons and all. After you get confident enough, then secondly you can go for fiddle leaf fig or rubber plants. You can always go for seeds also. Last year I have grown mango in water. So you just have to cut the hard shell of the mango seed and you will get the soft portion and you can grow it in water. And then when you get new leaves you can put it in soil. Right now I am growing avocado in water. So I would share it in Instagram after a few weeks when it's like it gets new roots and all. It's just in few days in water. And then you can go for cactus and snake plants. These are also very like comfortable with water, I would say, but it's a bit tricky, not for every beginners, because cactus are again succulents and they already have water. So if you dip it in like water for more portion of it in water, it can get rot. And how much you have to dip it, you can try it with permutation combination. You can put some water and try with this much and then this much. So I have been right now I have this cactus in water and these are the roots. So this one I got it from wild, so I don't exactly know its variety name, but it's been in water for like almost from August. It's been water. So a lot of cactus can be grown in water, but not for beginners, I would say, because like how much you have to dip it is a tricky part. And then again, a lot of philodendrons are very easy to keep, and a lot of pups you can grow in water. So this is my spider plant, and is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is my spider plant. I keep it in my study table, and this is its pup. So what happens? These pups already start, getting new roots. So you can cut it from here and put it in water. So this plant was also some time back a pup. I started it in water, and now it also has another pup. You can grow these spider plant pups in water for years. Like in my mother's home, I have a spider plant in water for 4 to 5 years. You just have to follow the rules, frequent water change, the light combination and all, they would happily grow in water. So spider plant pups are also very easy. So yes, these are the easiest plants you can grow in water. I have told you the names, but then again you can experiment with any plant you like. And if it dies, don't get hard on yourself. There's no mistake in gardening, we just learn new things. So it's always an experimentation, learning experimentation. You haven't killed any plant intentionally, just I want to kill you, I'm a murderer. You haven't done this. So if any plant dies in this process, you don't have to blame yourself, you don't have to get ashamed or feel embarrassed. It's all into the process. And like a lot of plants uh, will cooperate in water. I would show my last plant. It's very big, so I thought I would not show you, but uh, this one I'll show you. So this one is a philodendron in water, and it's been in water for a lot of months, I don't know. So you can see it's
Wow.
a container, and these are the
Is it a
leaves.
plastic container?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a food container, and
Okay.
like sustainable living. I can't throw it. I would reuse it till it can hold anything.
Uh-huh. So,
Yeah.
is it advisable to grow propagate plants in plastic containers?
Yeah, you can. You can. You just
Okay.
have to keep in check. The water should not get very warm, because plastics get easily warm than glass
Glass.
containers.
Yes.
And you have to clean it. And a lot of places have hard water, so you have to clean the inner surface, the salt decomposition, like the it will accumulate over the surface. You can clean it with the scrubber or something, and you can keep it in containers. I would say, if you want to grow it in plastic container, don't buy any plastic container. You can use the containers which you get from food deliveries or something like that. So a lot of containers you see here, I would say none of them I have bought it. These are all recycled ones. Only this one is, like a glass, which previously I used to drink water and, like for drinking purpose, and rest all are recycled thing. So if you want to, get any plastic container, please reuse the containers you have in home. And if you buy something, buy glass. I don't want, like for water propagation, we start, making plastic wastes a habit.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. So this is it from my side. Any questions or doubt anyone want to ask? Is there any question?
No, no, no questions. We have a comment from Ashwarya. She's saying very useful information.
Yeah. I didn't thought I would be saying this much. I thought I would be having very less things to say.
No, it's very
a lot of
interesting.
things a lot of things were not new. A lot of people would be watching this and would say like, I already know this. But a lot of people didn't have any idea. A lot of people didn't think it was important, and a lot of people are new to this and they wanted to know this. So there are few things which you might have known earlier. There are few things which you would have learned today. And I believe like every day we can learn a new thing. So I
Yes.
hope like there was anything useful for everyone.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Even if somebody knew most of the things, it's always good to hear it again. It's just a good reminder.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an amazing session, Shilpi. It was wonderful listening to you. And I hope all our viewers must have learned a lot today. And we again want to tell you that if you have any doubts, any questions with your water propagation, you can connect with Shilpi on her Instagram page, and she would be more than happy to help you out.
Yeah,
The
and
link is in the description box below.
it was a lovely live showing all my plants. I love showing my plants to people, and I know people who love plants really get excited to see plants. So, and thanks to the Affordable Organic Store and Zaira for giving me this opportunity. And
You're
I'm
welcome.
very thankful for this session. I really enjoyed it.
Same here. It was a pleasure having you with us today, and thank you for sparing your valuable time with us and sharing such wonderful uh, knowledge and tips with us today.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
for
would
being.
soon, put a video of all the water propagated plants I did in lockdown. So
Okay,
it's in my mother's home, but I have the video, and I shared all my experiences from those cuttings. So I would share all my water propagation things over my Instagram page. So anyone if want to know more or want to see those can come to my Instagram page and see over there and ask them.
absolutely. Okay, Shilpi, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.